Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. We're on live Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, legendary boxing Hall of Fame writer, Jack Hirsch. As we go through sports today, we'll have guests on today, starting with Byron Williams, our NFL analyst. We'll have Keith Engle from TGI Sports Talk, and the Philly guy in covering Philadelphia sports. Good morning, Jack. How you doing today?
Hey, good, Mac. How are you?
Not too bad, Jack. It was kind of, I don't want to say slow day in sports because there's always something to talk about compared to yesterday. So first I want to go through the scores. We'll talk a little bit about a couple of news items from the scores. And then we'll jump down into a little bit of the NFL and hopefully set up Byron so when he comes in, we're ready to rock with the NFL with him. So let's start with the NHL last night. The Wild beat the Flyers 5-4. The Panthers beat the Senators 3-0. The Capitals over the Hurricanes 4-0. Pittsburgh over Tampa Bay 5-1. The Canucks beat the New York Islanders 4-3. Chicago beats Edmonton 4-3. Bruins 5, Knights 2. The Canadiens beat the Flames 5-4. The Coyotes beat the Avalanche 2-1. I guess it's, I hope I pronounce this right. Alex Ovechkin.
Ovechkin.
Thank you, sir. Scores
Washington Capital player.
Scores his 763rd goal. So a little milestone for him there. The NBA scores the Hawks with 39 points from Young win 130-124 over the Bulls. The Boston Celtics playing decent, 124. The Grizzlies 107. Detroit over the Raptors 108-106. The Kings beat the Spurs 115-112. Dallas beats the Warriors for like the second time in 5 days, 122-113. The Clippers rout the Los Angeles Lakers 132-113. Durant scores over 30-plus points in return, to the Nets, but still they end up losing the game, Jack, 113-107 to the Heat.
Mac, I can't comment on these games because as soon as I'm set to comment, you mention 10 other games, and then how can I backtrack to all the games? It's like reading a book, Mac. You go in 7 chapters, and I still haven't talked about chapter number 2.
Well,
but just very briefly,
let's go back to chapter number 2 real quick, Jack. And what do you got?
Okay, very, very briefly, okay. 2 things stand out as far as the NBA goes. I mean, you get the feeling with the Lakers, they're going to be throwing in the towel at some point. They keep saying they're trying to straighten things out, figure things out. They can't figure things out. Again, in the lineup, they got beaten decisively by the Clippers. LeBron was in, Russell Westbrook was in, Carmelo Anthony was in. The only thing to figure out would be if Anthony Davis wasn't injured. That would be the only possibility of getting it together, but he's out, so he's going to be a non-factor. You kind of wonder with the Lakers, are they going to slump to the point where they don't even make the play-in? And it's ugly that the chemistry's not good. Even with Anthony Davis, they wouldn't make a deep playoff run. Even if Davis were healthy, it's an ugly situation in LA as far as the Clippers, as far as the Lakers go. As far as the Clippers go, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, where are you? Okay. They've been playing with those guys out of the lineup. There was a nice little upset in the NBA yesterday with the Pistons beating the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors have been playing really well, and the Pistons have had one of the worst records in the NBA. But between their young players like Cade Cunningham, who I'm yet the number 1 overall pick in the draft, who I've yet to figure out how truly good he's going to be, even though he shows flashes that he's going to be an all-star type player, and Jeremiah Grant. There's some hope there in Detroit. And, of course, the Celtics, Mac, as you mentioned, they've been playing really, really well, okay? Yeah. They had team meetings, and they finally got it together as far as their chemistry goes. And as far as hockey goes, the Islanders losing to Vancouver. Vancouver scoring twice, a couple of times early in the third period. I don't want to say it's ever too late for a team when they have enough games left, but it's apparent it's just about too late for certain teams like the Islanders, because if they haven't gotten it together by now, it's hard to believe they're going to go on this big giant surge and be a force the rest of the season. I mean, they've just about run out of time. Big disappointment with the Islanders opening up a new arena out on Long Island and having this type of team this year after coming close to making the finals the last 2 years.
Well, the Islanders are done, Jack. There's no doubt in my mind the Islanders are all done. It's just what are they going to do next is the question. How do they get back to being competitive again? That's the big question. As far as the Lakers go, Jack, the Lakers won a championship inside a bubble, right? That's when they won the championship, if I'm not mistaken, a couple of years ago in the bubble. There wasn't the same amount of games. And I'm not saying that the Lakers didn't deserve to win that. I'm just saying all things equal, I don't know if there was the full amount of games if the Lakers would have won the championship. LeBron James is a little old in the tooth now, Jack. I'm not saying he can't play. He's still one of the best in the league, but he sure ain't what he was years ago. And Anthony Davis, with a full year, is apt to get injured. So, we talk about the Lakers winning the championship a couple of years ago, but there was, I don't want to say extenuating circumstances, but for the team they have, a shorter season definitely plays better into their hand than the longer season does, as opposed to a younger team or a team that has a good mixture, which the Lakers do not have at all right now.
I'll tell you, every Batman needs a Robin, and then you need some supporting characters around that. Look, don't kid yourself. LeBron is still one of the best players in the NBA. When you say long in the tooth, one of the best players in the NBA. And you get the feeling that LeBron is becoming a little fed up because when it's apparent to him the team, the way it's constituted, isn't going to win. And that's so hard to go in, day out, knowing that the chemistry in the office isn't good. It's like the regular person going to work, where you're working in an office that's not a happy atmosphere. It's not a productive atmosphere, yet you're showing up each day because you have to get your paycheck. It's your job. And that's what I think LeBron is facing now. And you get the feeling some of the Laker players, it's kind of like playing out the season. They're going to have to make some big changes next year. But like I said, they have Anthony Davis, who they're not going to trade. And what I said yesterday on the show, big mistake, not trading Russell Westbrook and a number 1 draft choice to the Houston Rockets for John Wall. Because John Wall, the hope was he was going to be healthy, before the year was out and be a bit of a force and maybe help the Lakers do something this year, at least give them hope. And they didn't make the deal. The Lakers sat pat when the chemistry was really bad. And, it's what it is. It's just not a happy time to be an LA Laker.
Well, what I'm saying by long in the tooth, Jack, is if LeBron was about 10 years younger, they'd still be alive. He would carry that team. He was a one-man workhorse at one time. He's not that anymore. He's still a great player, but he ain't what he was when he was younger. You can't deny that. So, I mean, he would will that team.
But production-wise, Mac, LeBron hasn't slowed down that much production-wise. Okay, if you look at it, he has other players he defers to. He plays the point guard more, okay, handles the ball a little more than before, and you adjust your game a bit as you get older. I mean, it happens to like all the great ones. They're not quite what they were at their peak, but they make an adjustment and they're very good. Listen, the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA title last year, okay? But the time they won it 50 years before, Lou Alcindor was the best player on that team. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the center. But you know who his Robin was? The great Oscar Robertson, one of the best players in NBA history. Sure. But Oscar Robertson wasn't the big O of his prime, but he was a very good player. He could perform the same way. Or what Angelo Dundee said about Muhammad Ali before he boxed George Foreman and Zaire. They asked him, do you think Ali's at his peak? He says, no, he's not at his peak, but he can perform the same way that he did when he was at his peak. And that's how I look at, and he knocked out George Foreman, the invincible George Foreman. And that's how I look at LeBron James. He can perform the way he did before, maybe not physically, but he can get the job done. He can get enough of the rebounds, do enough of the scoring, enough of the assists, play good defense. He can get the job done, but he needs, he needs the pieces around him a little more. But listen, Mac, when he won the NBA title at Cleveland, he had Kyrie Irving. No matter what we think of Kyrie Irving's off-the-court antics, he's a great player on the court. He really is outstanding. When he was at Miami, LeBron, he had D-Wade, Chris Bosh, other pieces. Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, other pieces. All the great ones, Magic Johnson, Worthy, Kareem, Larry Bird, Mikhail Parrish, Dennis Johnson. They all have them. LeBron doesn't have that right now with the Lakers, but it's his fault. He thought Russell Westbrook was going to make a difference maker. Carmelo Anthony was going to be a difference maker. And it hasn't played out that way because he should have seen the pattern of the NBA and the NBA career of those players, how it worked out with other teams. But of course, LeBron thought, well, with me, it's going to be different, and it hasn't been.
Well, listen, I think the Lakers are done this year too, Jack. They're all set. I think the biggest problem with the Lakers is Davis. He gets hurt too much. That's the biggest problem with the Lakers right now. He's always on
Anthony Davis. Yeah. But listen, you can
that's the biggest problem. And he's a great player when he's healthy, but if he can't stay healthy, it really doesn't matter, right? So that's the biggest issue the Lakers have right now, as far as their chances of doing anything. You look at the Nets. Durant comes back, he scores 30+ points in 35 minutes. He's still a great basketball player. They still get beat by a very good Miami Heat team. That's nothing to be ashamed of. But as I read further into it, the Nets are saying Simmons won't be is weeks, Jack, away from playing. I don't get it. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Well, a lot, really. I did. I really don't get it. Why are you trading for someone that can't play? I just don't get it. The 76ers look like the smartest team in the NBA right now.
Well, the Nets had to trade Harden, let's be honest about it. And that was the best deal they could get. And the Sixers had to trade Simmons. It was a good deal for the Nets. They got Drummond, Seth Curry, 2 number 1 picks along with Simmons. And if the Sixers win the championship, it's obviously a great deal for them. Getting Harden, a super player. Shame on me. I don't have the date in my head when the Nets are playing the Sixers, but you get the feeling the Nets are looking to hold Simmons out until after they play Philadelphia and then revisit that next year when he returns to Philadelphia. Like I said yesterday on the show, I think he should just play that game in Philadelphia if he physically can. Get it out of the way, because as hostile as the first game back will be, it's never as bad the second time. It's still bad the second time, but it always lessens a little bit every time after that. But what's with Simmons? That's what I don't understand. When he was holding out, not going to the Sixers, he had to know at some point, he was going to play basketball again. Was he keeping in shape? What was he doing? Unless it's a legitimate injury right now, unless he legitimately hurt himself. I like to give guys a benefit of the doubt, even though we're a bit skeptical. Like, what's going on? Like, what's taking so long to get him to come back? But let me tell you something, Mac. Even if Simmons comes back, basketball is the ultimate team game. You could put on a bunch of all-stars, as we've seen in the Olympics, like the NBA's best, and they lose to these teams in Europe because these teams in Europe have played as a team, and the NBA All-Stars are just a bunch of talented guys thrown together. with the Nets, they lost their three-point sharpshooter, Joe Harris, who's been out. Now they announce he won't be back the rest of the year. KD comes back. He has a really good game. And Jimmy Butler's out for Miami, and the Nets still lose. This just doesn't seem to be the Nets' year. And even if COVID restrictions get completely waived and Kyrie Irving could play for the Nets, I'm not optimistic that the Nets have a serious chance to come out of the East this year.
I don't think so either, Jack. I don't think they can beat the Bucks. I don't think they can beat the 76ers. I don't think they may not be able to beat the Bulls either. I don't know. And we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be very interesting come the end, especially with the couple new teams up in there battling. And hey, congratulations to Boston. They finally seem to be putting it together. Maybe they have a little success in the playoffs too. I don't know.
They had a lot of they had a number of team meetings. Yeah. I mean, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, the feeling around the Celtic team was they were hogging the ball a little too much, and the team were meeting. They were talking about it. So apparently they got that, element straightened out, and they're a lot more cohesive as a team, playing better defense, and it's resulting in wins. And the Celtics have been looking good. I mean, when we talk about who's going to come out of the East, Mac, we talk about Philadelphia, we talk about Milwaukee, Miami gets a few mentions, but no one seems to talk about the Celtics. But now all of a sudden they're on the radar. They're taking a peek in, don't discount them completely.
Agree. Let's talk a little bit. Byron should be coming in very shortly. The NFL teams with huge salary caps, Jack. And I was looking at this. The Saints are $42 million over the cap. I no wonder why Sean McVay says I want to take a year off. I mean, they really. Sean Payton said he wanted to take a year off. I mean, they really don't have anything to show for it. I mean, last year their team was okay, but they really don't have anything to show for that $42 million above the cap. That's very, very that's very dangerous. I mean, this year, you got Packers at $32 million over, Dallas at $22 million over, the Rams and the Vikings at $21 million over the cap. And of course, that's Cousins' contracts looming very large there. Now, these teams have to get under the cap, Jack. And this means reserve money for their draft picks before they start picking up any players.
I'm going to tell you the most intriguing thing isn't the Saints being over the cap. The Saints, to me, are basically in a rebuilding mode, or should be at least. They're a little long in the tooth. Their quarterback situation's unsettled. Alvin Kamara had some trouble with the law in Las Vegas. We're going to see how that's going to play out, whether he's going to be suspended by the commissioner's office a number of games. We don't know. But the Packers are making an all-out effort to re-sign Aaron Rodgers, okay? An all-out effort, making him the highest-paid quarterback in the league. But to do that, for Aaron Rodgers to sign, he's got to feel that the Super Bowl window is still open at least. He doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding program. And in all fairness to him, no veteran wants to be that who's been in the league a lot of years. They all want to feel they have a legitimate chance of going to the Super Bowl, okay? So they have, Devontae Adams, other signings they're going to have to do. And it's very hard to figure it out. You need a really creative GM, a really creative front office. Cowboys, too, chances are they lose Amari Cooper, as a cap casualty. They're tough decisions that have to be made, and teams have to decide who can they afford to lose. I mean, of all the players out there, and the Packers, obviously, Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be their answer, but for the Cowboys, Amari Cooper is going to be their answer. With the Saints, I think it's going to be a combination of players that they're going to have to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, and just on cue, Byron pops underneath me here, so we'll bring him up. Bring up our NFL analyst, former star wide receiver in the NFL, Byron Williams. Talk a little bit about the cap and the combine. We'll start off with those two things. How you doing today, Byron?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Hey,
We're
Byron.
doing real good. We started talking about the salary caps, Byron, and a lot of people complain about the salary caps of losing players, but I believe that there's another side to this. This kind of keeps teams honest, the competition even, hard decisions to make. Are you going to give that star quarterback a big piece of the pie and lose some of the pieces around them, like what happened in Kansas City with their offensive line? Or are you going to take that second-tier quarterback and have great pieces around him? A lot of decisions, Byron, that have to be made. Green Bay's talking about, as Jack just mentioned, signing to make Aaron Rodgers the highest-paid quarterback in the league. But if they do that, they're already $32 million over the cap. Then they're going to have to get rid of some players. And as
unfortunately, you can't keep all your players like you used to.
And as Byron, as Robert Butler has said, no team where the quarterback has taken over 20% of the cap has won a Super Bowl yet.
Right.
So I mean, what do you think if you're a GM? The Saints are $42 million over. They're crazy. If you're a GM, you got some big decisions to make. You got a quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers or anybody similar to him that you want to get back on the team, and you're over the cap. What are you going to do?
Yeah, unfortunately, that salary cap really, really hurt, and the escalation of all the salaries with the quarterbacks is a key factor as well. And then when you have the franchise tag that you have to have a couple of players that you must keep on your team, you have to be really good at managing and shuffling the money around, because it's how you manage your talent pool as well as these huge contracts now. And so what they're doing, especially with the big time players, they're having them to restructure their contract. But in Aaron Rodgers' case, he holds the key to everything. He played his cards right. And, they're trying to sign some great players again, to keep on that team in order to stay consistent. And it's one of those deals where you have to have a good general manager to make sure that they can, be able to manage the talent pool as well as the contracts for some of these players.
And let's get one thing straight. Rodgers is still under contract.
Right. Yeah.
So they don't have to offer him nothing. He either would have to play or retire. So, I mean, the right now, the Packers, believe it or not, still hold the key to the castle. They still have the rights to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he might end up being he might be a big time owner of the Green Bay Packers for us all over with. He gonna probably have he gonna have an advantage. But it's his option is really good this year. It's not like it was last year. So it's going to be real interesting to see what happens in the next 30 to 45 days, I think, with Aaron Rodgers.
Well, no. Aaron Rodgers really does have the leverage. I know, Mac, you're saying legally, well, they have a contract or he could retire. The feeling, I think, within the Packer organization is going to be one of two things. Either he'd retire, he'll show up to camp late, the chemistry is going to be messed up, and the Packers want to have, and the team isn't going to be that good if that's going to be the case. So I think they want to please Aaron Rodgers, put the past behind them, and come to a definite agreement. I mean, players hold a certain leverage, even though legally they might not. The team might have certain rights. They know what to work out with certain guys. Look at the Rams. They just won the Super Bowl. They have Aaron Donald on the contract. Would you think they're going to call his bluff, say either you play for what your contract says or you could retire? Because Aaron Donald would call their bluff and actually, I think, retire, and the Rams would take a big blow. So they're going to redo Aaron Donald's contract. They don't have to, but they know they have to.
Yeah, and that it's really, I think some management teams are a little bit different than other teams and organizations. So you're absolutely right. I just think too that Green Bay is really in a good situation, though. I think they need to try to take advantage of the opportunity they have, because their division is so weak where they dominate the divisions and they have a chance of going back to the playoffs. And once you get into the playoffs, you have a chance of going to the Super Bowl. So I just think if they can keep the nucleus of that team together, they can still have a direct path to the Super Bowl. So I'm thinking too that might, that if I was a management guy, I would be thinking about that too, because we have a good chance of going to the Super Bowl. We were 13-3 and 13-3, 13-4 the last couple of years. I won 13 games. That's hard to do in the National Football League, to win 13 games 2 consecutive seasons in a row.
Guys, we're talking about.
Byron, wait a minute, Jack. Well, Byron, that gets back to my original point. If they're going to give Aaron Rodgers $50 million or $40-something million, who can they keep? I mean, you're going to have to get rid of these high-priced free agents as wide receivers. You're going to have to get rid of some linemen. How are they going to be competitive? So you got Aaron Rodgers throwing to whoever and whoever blocking for Aaron Rodgers. How does that give him a path to the Super Bowl?
Well, it won't. It really won't give him a path if he loses key players. That's for sure. That wouldn't happen. That's not going to happen, because you got to have you still got to have your players. His offensive linemen, they did well, and of course his receivers are pretty consistent, and DeMonte and those guys. If you don't sign those guys, it's gonna be hard to win. To win games. Period.
See, I think it comes down to Byron. I think it comes down to Jack Hall that says, well, they're not going to win without Aaron Rodgers. Well, they won't win with a lot of key players around him either. So I think it comes down to the quarterback himself, the leverage Jack says he has. So do you really want to go to the Super Bowl, or do you really want to be the highest paid quarterback in the league? That's the question that he's going to have to answer. And that's the question a lot of quarterbacks are going to have to answer if they want to go to the Super Bowl. If they really want to go to the Super Bowl, have a shot at going to the Super Bowl, which Green Bay's had a shot the last few years and hasn't done it. If they really want to do that, then they got a decision to make. Under the way the NFL is structured right now, you have a salary cap. And if you're going to take up all the salary cap and be the highest paid quarterback, you're probably not going to the Super Bowl. And that's the decision they got to make. So I think Aaron Rodgers would behoove him, if he wants to stay with the Packers, to keep his salary somewhat in line so they can sign all these players around him. That would make sense to me, unless he just wants to be the highest paid player in the league. Yeah,
I totally agree with that. I just think too, there's ways to structure these contracts to where your money can be deferred, and he's looking at anywhere between $45 to $50 million a year or so. It's gonna be crazy how they structure his contract. I mean, but I think too, if maybe do something like what Tony Romo did, the Cowboys paid him, $3 or $4 million after he left the game. He was still getting paid. So there's ways to get around it, but it got to be real decisive of how he want to get his money and how he want to get paid. But you structure your player, you structure your contract, make sure that other players can be still on the team, that you can continue to have the success that you have.
Guys, another great quarterback's been in the news, Tom Brady. I was the first one who said when he announced his retirement, I felt he was going to come back. And I was laughed at this show, I think, Mac, by you and maybe Jeff Coat. And now it's coming out he might come back. I can't see for the life of me Brady, all these rumors going to the 49ers. He's not going to uproot his family from Florida to go to the 49ers. But anyway, Bruce Arians, the coach of the Buccaneers, said Brady's under contract. We're not letting him go anywhere if he comes back, meaning it as a compliment that they want him with the Buccaneers and he's not tradable. And that's an interesting scenario. I mean, let's say Brady gets the urge to come back, and we should have an idea right now whether he'd come back. If he's working out with Alex Guerrero, his conditioning coach, that's the sign right there. If he's not working out with his conditioning coach all along and he's just working out on his own, that's a sign he's not going to come back. So we know one or the other. But what kind of scenario is that with the Buccaneer cap? They got to make a decision who's going to quarterback. And Brady might call them early October saying, guys, I'll need just 2 weeks to get ready. I mean, what are they to do? Do they go for a high-profile quarterback, or what? I don't know what the answer is for them guys.
Well, I don't think Tom Brady coming back myself. I just think
I'm still laughing at Jack's proposal there.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back. I think he got so many options. He got so many great things to go into right now. And you just love to be Tom Brady right now if I was anybody, but I wouldn't want to come back. He done everything.
Oh, the love of the game, Byron. You especially should understand that there's nothing like playing football. Listen, I'm listening to Michael Strahan a few years ago. Think of all the things Michael Strahan has going from in his life. If you tell Michael Strahan, man, we're going to pay you 10, 12 million a year. You could do all this TV stuff. You'll take a nice pay cut, whatever, but you could play football once again at your peak, be on the field every Sunday. I think Strahan puts on that giant uniform and he's ready to go, and he's happier than he's ever been. He does the NFL games. He doesn't need the money at the NFL shows. He doesn't need the money for that. He loves being around it.
That's why he needs to be sitting in my seat, because I see players 60, 70 years old walking into our meeting, can barely walk because they played 1 or 2 plays too many. I'm thinking if you think about 10 to 15, 20 years after you leave the game of football, your body, your mind, some things like that. So I'm telling these guys, football take a toll on you. I don't care who you are. It take a toll on your body. So I just know for a fact that if you're thinking about being around your family and living a wholesome life, then you need to go ahead and walk away from football when you can, because you don't want to be wheeled around in a wheelchair. That's my thoughts, because I see these players a lot come to our meetings. So and I'm telling you, guys who played in the 70s and the 80s, and their benefits are really bad, but it's a different game now. It's a different game, but I'm saying you only, and every player know this in the back of their mind, you only have a limited time to play this game. And you try to make the most money you can. You try to take advantage of some of the things and opportunities. And what I love about football, it can set you up for success, but you can't keep playing the game because it's a young man game. It's just the nature of the fact.
Yeah, there's very few that can play football for a long time. Very few positions too, Byron.
And Tom Brady, he done everything. He's the GOAT, no doubt. You can't argue with that. And I don't see him coming back. If he do it, I'll be surprised.
Me too. Very surprised. I'd be very surprised. So let's take a look a little bit about. We talked. Well, I should say we talked. You and Jim talked about some salary issues. One thing with the Cowboys, Amari Cooper is going to be making $22 million this year. If they cut him before, I think it's March 16th, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there, Byron, they'll end up saving like $16 million under the cap. They'll end up paying him like $6 million for that year instead of the 22. Cooper really, he's a good receiver, Byron, but he's not the number one receiver I think they thought he would be. So if you're the GM of the Dallas Cowboys, you try to trade him? Do you keep him? Do you cut him? What do you do with him?
I would try to trade him. I think too that his performance has dropped off the last year or so. I'm looking at him being a leader amongst the receivers. Maybe he is in the locker room, maybe he is in practice, but during the game, I don't see him rallying the troops. You know what I'm saying? So I just need a little bit more out of him as a receiver, and as an experienced receiver, I think he should have more leadership. Just showing CeeDee Lamb and some of these other players that's been in 2 or 3 years, and he needs to do more. If you're the highest paid receiver, that requires you to be the best on and off the football field. Your leadership characteristics need to be shown, and I don't see that in him. So I think they can go another route. I would trade him if I was the GM.
If you can, right, for that price. I don't know if people want to pay $22 million for him. Same thing with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, Byron. And he's coming up on a big, I think it's the second to the last or the last year of his contract. He's owed a lot of money. I don't know what team would pick up that. That's the biggest problem with a lot of these players. What teams would pick up that contract? So I think they would love to get out from underneath Kirk Cousins' contract and maybe give him to another team. But what team's going to pick up that big contract is the problem is a lot of teams are running in with.
Yeah, it's not too many teams want to deal with that. Kurt Curlin, he left Washington to go to the Vikings, and Washington would be a good fit, but they done already been down that road with him. So it's not that many teams out there for him to go to, and the salary that he's been paid, and the contract that he got initially with the Vikings was huge. So it would be kind of hard fit. I don't know what Minnesota going to do with him right now. I think the new coaches and things are trying to work something to make sure that he can fit the division and the direction of the team. But that will be a unique situation in itself. But
not easy to move him reputation-wise. Mike Zimmer, who was let go by the Vikings, was recently critical of Kirk Cousins, saying he just doesn't take chances unless you pressure him to do so. I mean, the coaching staff had to keep urging Kirk Cousins to open things up. Otherwise, he's very, very conservative. He's scared to make mistakes. And if you're a quarterback and you're scared to fail, you're not going to be that successful.
Yeah. And I just think it's something missing with Kurt. But, he had a good pool of talent of receivers around him. Of course, the running back Cooks was great. But I just think, Minnesota is really close of really being a great team, I think.
Yeah, and that's a nice shot by Zimmer across the bow after they let him go, saying Kirk Cousins can't take chances to make it almost impossible to trade him. A great move by Zimmer. I look at the Rams, and the Rams, of course, they won the Super Bowl. They're also over the cap. And they lost 6 assistant coaches, including their offensive coordinator. Byron, how hard is it to keep the staffs together? I don't remember, I go back and I look at Bill Parcells and some of the coaching staffs, like Washington's and San Francisco's when they had great teams. I don't remember them losing all these coaches after they won the Super Bowl. Maybe they did. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But how hard is it going to be for the Rams to adjust losing all these coaches, that salary cap, and of course now they got a target on their back?
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of hard this year. I think it's getting even harder because these coaches are pretty experienced and good, and that now some of these teams are tapping into the collegiate coaching staff. They bring some of these younger coaches in, but it's definitely hard. But they got a philosophy there and a style of what they want their team to look like. So I'm thinking that it's still going to be hard, and plus. The key factor, too, is the injuries, how many injuries that you have on your team and how many free agents you can sign. But what's good about this year, I think the Rams have a good way of doing things for as how they draft and how they sign their free agents. And I'm thinking that the Rams still going to be as good as they can be because the style that they have for their philosophy and what they want with their playbooks. And because one of the things they said too is the locker room. It's structured and it's upbeat, and some of the things that they do in practice, how they engage their players inside the locker room and during the week of game preparation. So they still got that formula there. So I don't think it's going to be that hard. I just think if they're going to be hungry enough to go back to back and see if they can win it back to back.
The combine, of course, is going on, Byron.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a huge fan of the combine. I think it serves some purposes. Jack thinks it's overrated. Of course, your partner Jim thinks it might be a little overrated too. But I think you're a big fan of the combine, and I think the situations really dictate on who it really helps, right? Because a lot of players from the smaller schools aren't scouted as much as the bigger schools, and they get a shot to kind of show their what they can do off. And I think that has a lot to do, again, with the situation you're in. Some players, maybe like yourself, some receivers don't have the greatest quarterback in the world, right? They don't have the best quarterback throwing the ball, or maybe your running back doesn't have the best offensive line blocking for him, and he still picks up some major yardage. I think that's the players that helps the most, Byron.
Absolutely, no doubt. We were talking about the receivers yesterday. They had a good pool of talent. I mean, some guys who really improved their status. One of the kids from Western Michigan, Sky Moore, he really looked good. I mean, he really improved his status. The guy from North Dakota State, Christian Watson, another receiver, he really improved his status. So you got some receivers that really, Garrett Wilson from Ohio State, he looked good yesterday. I mean, some guys, for us overall, this group of wide receivers did run crisp routes. They look good on the football field. They're pretty consistent. The kid from Cincinnati that was a linebacker, his name is Alex Pierce. He ran a 4.41 and man, his stock went up. So this is what I like about the combine. You really get to see these kids in their element with other players that they competing against, and they can see who can adjust and make the adjustment, who running these routes, eye-hand coordination, who got a good vertical jump, things like that. You really can see up close. And another thing, and see how fast they can learn on the field, learning and making these adjustments and being on the same page with these new quarterbacks. Now you got these quarterbacks look good too. They some of the guys that look really good. Even guys that his name is, I think, Carson, that played at Nevada. These guys also improved their start. They might have would have been a third round or fourth round draft choice, and maybe some team might be thinking about bringing them in as a second round player. So yesterday, what I love about the combine, you get to see these players up close and seeing how they can make these adjustments on and off the field.
You got game film, Byron, from when they played in college. That's what they should judge on. All the combines are for athletes. Okay?
But Jack, this is what I want you to know. The level of improvement from going from college and making that adjustment with the speed on the next level is what these guys should be looking at as well. So I know we got game film, but you have different competition of the players that you are competing with while you're playing on this level in college. So now you're playing these guys on a different level. And what I like about the combine, you get to see their physical attributes. Now later on, when they go to the pro day, they get to go one-on-one against some of the DBs, and then that's when you actually see the real guys up close. And it's just a different view of things when you see these guys up close.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got a point. I think Jack has a point too, Byron. But some things, I mean, if they do something different at the combine, say they didn't do during the year, for instance, suppose you watch them in their league against teams that they played against, and they looked really good, right? I mean, that's how you judge who they're playing. You can't judge who, if Arizona State don't play Alabama, you can't judge them what Arizona State could do against a team like Alabama. You have to judge them in their games in their division. So I think this is where the combine can either help a player or hurt a player. Because if this wide receiver sets that league on fire, and it's a smaller league, and then he goes to the combine, and he doesn't play that well, it may make them go back and look at the tape, right?
Yeah, but you always have a Cooper Kupp in the combine. I mean, you have these type of players that you can see them running precise routes and the speed, and when they catch the ball, how quickly they can catch it and tuck the ball, things like that. I think you get a real good feel for them fitting into your offensive philosophy on the next level. And that's where I think last night I was looking at the receiver. I said, this guy, he didn't look as good as, he's a little bit overrated. And this guy now should be rated a little bit better. And they had two receivers that was out that didn't participate, James Williams from Alabama and London Drake, the other wide receiver. Those two guys is in the top 5 receivers. They didn't participate in the combine. But my point is, you can see things that you up close a little bit different. And then another thing too that I think is hidden is the intelligence of the players, because how quick can you learn? How quick can you think? And then some of the things that they asked you, what kind of answers do you give? And there's some of these guys, that had some problems off the field. So now you can see some of that as well.
Byron, I'm not against the combine as far as the football aspect of it. I don't like judging them on how quick they run the 40, what their vertical jump is. That to me is complete nonsense. Okay. If you're going to do strictly football drills, I can be okay with that at the combine. It's the other stuff I don't like.
Like what?
Like I just said, lining them up for the 40 and judging their time, seeing what the vertical jump is. That's complete nonsense. Nonsense because it's about timing. There's football speed and there's regular speed. And some of these guys who are lightning fast with the 40 won't have good timing on the field. They won't have the right football speed. They won't know how to time their jump. It doesn't take into account instincts as well. I mean, you line them up like they're machine. How quick can you run the 40? I mean, it's nonsense.
No, I think it's really good. I mean, for me, I'm telling you, I only caught 26 balls my senior year. It broke my ankle. The combine helped me when they got a chance to see me up close. I had quarterbacks that couldn't throw probably to 50 yards that consistently, But my point is, you really get a good feel for the talent and the skill set of these players when you can put them in this kind of environment. And let me tell you something else. Your heart be beating when you know that you got to run a good 40 time and you got everything got to be precise. They'll stop you on false starts and things like that. So you're under a lot of pressure. And so you can see that with the performance level of some of the players. So I think the combine put a lot of pressure on you. I mean, it's not just where you go and see who can jump the highest. It's a lot more to it than that.
You mentioned Cooper Kupp. For every Cooper Kupp, that's very rare. Teams overdraft guys based on what they did on the combine, and they draft them too high, and they didn't turn out to be quite worthy of that high draft pick. If there wasn't a combine and they just strictly judged them by what they did on college, they may have gotten it a lot better.
I disagree with that. I just think with these NFL teams, they have a scouting department. That's their job to put these guys and rate these guys. And this guy's a 5, this guy's a 4.5. I mean, and you have a list of players, right, from top to bottom. You have your top quarterback, you have your top receiver, you have your top linemen, and then and so you got the best 300 players. I mean, you got that rated, and you can go with that. And then on this side, you have like the possibility. This guy is a surprise because he played at Brown, he played at Cornell or Columbus or some of these other schools, right? So those are guys too that always make the team. And then you have these guys that can come in and play on the special team, who good at blocking punts, who good at return, who can catch, got the good safe hands, who dependable. So you got a pool of players that you got to consistently put on your draft board. And so
Byron, it's called scouts.
No,
you should have scouts go to those games.
But check this out, Jack.
Combine, watch them when they're actually playing games in season, and have scouts study guys that way. They do that in other sports.
I know that's other sports, but football is just a little bit different. Then you have the best players available. You already got about 5 or 6 of those during the draft. And then you say, okay, this is what we need. The best player available might be a linebacker, might be a defensive end, but yet you need a wide receiver. And the wide receiver that you want just got taken off the board. So that's a different case scenario. And that's why the draft and the combine is so important, because now you can put together your plan of action on what you need to do next.
Okay. So Byron, let's talk a little bit about two teams in the NFC East, the Washington Commandos, or whatever they're called now, Commanders. Yes, the Commodores, or whatever they are. They are definitely looking for a quarterback. They're not happy with Heineke. Fitzpatrick, I don't think they're going to hang their hopes on. You've got a few out there. You've got a couple quarterbacks that are looking to move or might move. Jimmy G just got operated on. I don't know what that is, throwing shoulder. I don't know where that leaves him. And you got Carson Wentz, who's going to be gone. You've got a couple big quarterbacks that might not be happy or might want to leave. Do Do you think Washington gets their quarterback this year?
I think they will. I think they're going to find a quarterback that they're going to decide and say, hey, we're going to take this quarterback, if it's Jimmy G or Russell Wilson. I think you got 3 good quarterbacks in this draft. I think you can build your team around that. But immediately, I would think they might go free agent to try to get a good quarterback as well. So they got some good options. I think they definitely can get a good quarterback. They can come in and bring instant gratification to the team, I think.
Okay, and the Giants, they said the trade for Barkley is on the table. Mm-hmm. Me and Jack were talking about that. I think that they might be able to get a second-round pick for a Barkley. I don't really know what they can get for Barkley because of his injury problems. I mean, if he's healthy, Barkley's a beast, but he hasn't been healthy. And the only thing I could think of, a team that might want to give up some resources, is that a team that would be close to the top, that could use that free agent to put them over the top, maybe a Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Rams, maybe a team like that that's right on the edge of going somewhere. And if they had one more weapon, if Barkley's healthy, it might put them over the top. That might be a team that would be interested. But I don't think there's going to be many teams that are going to take a chance on an injured Saquon Barkley, no matter how great he is, Byron.
Yeah, I think there's still a question mark on his knee and some of the things that, maybe he wasn't quite ready to come back and play, but he told everybody that he was. So I just think, too, it's one of those case scenarios to where, if it might be a team or two want to trade for him, but right now I think it's in a situation of where is his knee healthy? He maybe came back at 70-75%. He wasn't quite, there yet. And the style of offense, too, is a key. I think, too, your style of offense can are you going to pass the ball? Are you running the ball? Do you have enough tight ends, fullbacks to come in and help create holes? And then the linemen, his linemen ain't that superior for us. The things that they do on offense for the Giants. I think they need to improve their offensive line. So there's a whole lot of things that goes into it, I think, as well.
I agree, too. I don't know what kind of resources you could get for him or Ingram or one of those other players. I really don't know how many teams would be willing to get, especially, I mean, it's a different world out there right now, especially, with the draft having so much talent and all these vets out there that if you're going to take a big splash with a vet, you want to make sure you're close to getting over the top. You don't want to just waste your picking like the Jets did when they went and got Le'Veon Bell or something like that really wasn't in a position to really help the Jets get over the top. That was just a running back with a big name.
They signed him as a free agent, Le'Veon Bell. He was
right. Well, I mean, they would have to pay. I would imagine they would have to, if before Barkley would go, there would be some kind of an extension or something like that with that, Jack. I would imagine. Maybe not. We'll see. So, Byron, that's it for today's spot for you. Appreciate you coming in as you do every Friday to talk the NFL with us. Byron is on with Jim Jeffcoat every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central on J&B Talking Shop, where they talk all about the NFL and some other sports too. So, Byron, thanks for coming in this week, my friend.
Yeah, I'll be in Phoenix next week at the NFL Leadership Convention next Friday. So I would try to be in. It'll be early over there, but we'll get it in.
Get us the latest on Kyler Murray when you're down there.
Okay, I'll find out a little bit more insight.
There you go. You got some connections there, Byron. You have a great Friday, my friend.
All right, you guys have a great day.
Take care, buddy. There you go. Byron Williams, our NFL analyst, folks, on with us every Friday as he talks the NFL with us. Folks,
Matt, why do all these quarterbacks want these big fat extensions? They're always in the news. I mean, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, and on and on.
I'll tell you, Jack. I don't
know. Jackson.
I know it's not conducive to as we saw winning the Super Bowl. I mean, Burrows and the two quarterbacks were Burrows and Jesus, I forget his name real quick. For the Rams,
Matt Stafford.
Thank you. I was going to say Max Stafford instead of Max. It's Matt. I mean, they weren't getting no $50 million a year. I don't know, Jack. I don't know how you can win a Super Bowl when your quarterback's.
Well, Burrow's on his rookie year. He's only been 2 years in the league. they're obviously going to extend them. Maybe if not this year, next year.
Yeah, definitely. But they definitely can afford having a lot of good players around and big names when he's not taking up all the salary. Seattle Seahawks found that out, Jack. Right? They signed Wilson to that huge contract, and all of a sudden, Seattle Seahawks started falling off. It's a very tightrope they got to walk there as far as keeping everybody happy. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. Stick with us. We got Keith Engle on the other side coming at you.
Tito's presents Chester Cheetah.
I'm Chester Cheetah. I'm just a cool dude in a loose mood. Until I see those Cheetos. Then my cool turns to drool. My style and ease surrender to my urge for the snack that goes crunch. It's not easy being cheesy.
Cheetos cheese-flavored snack. Cheese that goes crunch. If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
It certainly is a big bun. It's a very big bun. Big fluffy bun. It's a very big fluffy bun.
Where's the beef?
Some hamburger places give you a lot less beef on a lot of bun.
Where's the beef?
At Wendy's, we serve a hamburger we modestly call a single. And Wendy's single has more beef than the Whopper or Big Mac. At Wendy's, you get more beef and less bun.
Hey, where's the beef? I don't think there's anybody back there.
You want something better. You're Wendy's kind of people.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting this stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
My baloney has a first name, it's O-S-C-A-R. My baloney has a second name, it's M-A-Y-E-R. Oh, I love to eat it every day, and if you ask me why, I'll say, 'cause Oscar Mayer has a way with B-O-L-O-G-N-A.
Oscar Mayer, the first name in Bologna.
How's that?
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
Oh, we're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. Zero tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's the first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show. We're online Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. As we just covered the NFL and the Combine, Jack's not a big fan of the Combine and some of the things they do there, and I agree with him in certain points. But, of course, somebody like Byron Williams, who got drafted in 1983 by the Green Bay Packers, Bart Starr was that coach at the time, needed that to after he was injured, and then to go out there and make some catches. I know the Philadelphia Eagles' Dick Vermeil even had some words with him during the Combine. He ended up going to the Eagles. So you make contacts, you interview well, and maybe you got a chance of getting drafted. And I can see why Byron really is into the Combine more than Jim Jeffcoat, who really didn't go to all the Combine things, and he was drafted in the first round. So I think it has a lot to do with the position you're in also, as much as it does with the scouts.
Well, Jim was a number one draft choice. Byron wasn't. So Jim knew what his status was. And maybe Jim was aware that the Combine only could have dropped his stock. Let's say he just feels a little off that day. Let's say you have a great career in college, but for whatever reason, you're just so-so for a couple of days at the Combine. You don't stand out. You're average. Your stock could drop. And listen, I don't mind the football stuff at the Combine, as I said, but the different drills that are non-football related, that's what I object to.
I hear you, Jack, and I don't necessarily disagree with you a whole lot on that. Let's bring in Keith Engle. How you doing, Keith?
Hello, you guys. You scared me for a second. You didn't give me any warning.
Well, TGI Sports Talk, Keith Engle, the host of TGI.
I was a little distracted. All of a sudden, I saw myself pop into the show here.
Well, I normally give you that big intro and everything, but once we start talking,
you make my head too big, and I won't be coming on, right? So.
Exactly. Your head will be almost big as Jim Jeffcoat's pretty soon. Keith, what's your opinion?
I'm not saying that to him when I see him in June. I can tell you right now.
I tell him I'm going to tackle him as soon as I see him. So hard. Keith, what do you think about the Combine? Do you think it's partly a waste of time, or do you think it's really good for, on the most part, that we look at these players doing their different drills and their different acts and everything they have to do to try to make a team?
I think, look, it may have outlived its usefulness, but as Jack said, that there's a lot of things that are just kind of, does it really matter how high a guy can jump if he's a quarterback and stuff like that? Who cares about that stuff? I mean, look at Tom Brady, had one of the worst combines in the history of the combine, and we know how that worked out. Yeah, it might be good for some of the guys who are on the borderline teams don't have a lot of film on and things like that. But you see a lot of the top guys, they're not going to go and participate. You've seen quarterbacks go and refuse to throw, and which always gives me a little pause for cause, right? Why are you refusing to throw in front of scouts?
Yeah, I mean, I was watching a little bit of the Combine, and this one quarterback that was rated pretty high. He looked terrible. He looked terrible out there. He was throwing the ball low, and he couldn't get it there. It wasn't coming off his hands right, and they were talking about how they have to go back and review the film now. So in that case, it might have hurt him. So
I know, but I don't know. It's kind of an artificial situation, and I think you can get a wrong read on a guy one way or the other, just based on a couple of days of. Some drills are football related, like throwing, as you mentioned the other day. But some of the other stuff, I mean, you want to know how fast guys run. It's important in some positions, not all. But I don't know. I don't get all wrapped up in it like a lot of people do and watch it wall to wall.
Yeah, they were talking about the guy's size of his hand and all this stuff, and it's a big deal. And
well, quarterbacks, it makes a big deal, but what about anybody else? Who cares? Kenny Pickett, they're making a big deal about his hands.
Yes, exactly.
Right, because they're worried because the NFL football is a little bigger, and will he be able to hold on to it? And
Joe Burrows made a comment, and he said, and Carlos was right behind me with that comment. It was 9 inches. He said, well, since my hands are so tiny, I'm thinking about retirement. and he made a joke of that a couple of years ago. So, wish me luck kind of thing. So it is what it is.
You know what? It's the NFL makes this big deal because they do a great job of. It's a year-round league, right?
Sure,
we go right from the Super Bowl to the combine to the draft to the spring OTAs and everything else. So
yeah. I mean, I guess it's theater, and it keeps people interested. Of course, they, especially the teams that are bad teams, right? They're looking at every angle. They do the mock drafts, and they're all into it. And I guess it serves its purpose just for that alone, right? Giving some fans hope. And
I'm sure there's some guys who really improve their stock based on what maybe some irrelevant information as well. So whatever.
Yeah. I mean, listen. And Carlos goes, his ego was measured at 100 yards, which is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. So Keith, let's take a little look. I don't want to take a look at the Knicks, but let's take a quick look at it. Earlier this week, Tibbs said this point guard situation is what it is. It's the best he has, right? No Derrick Rose, no, quickly. And I'm trying to remember the other guy's name that was playing point guard for him at the time.
Grimes.
Yeah, I think they made 20 points and 6 assists or something like that.
Well, he's out. I'm sorry, Grimes is out for the year. That's my bad.
I'm trying to remember the other guy's name that was rotating. That was in the rotation with him. I can't remember his name now. But anyway, he's doing what he has now. A lot of people are saying, listen, the Knicks got to do one or two things, and I kind of agree with that. Either put all the chips in the table, try to turn this thing around, or just let the young guys play. We've talked about it before. Toppin is behind, Randall on the depth chart. He's not going to get any playing time if they just keep playing Randall. That's just they're going to continue to try and win. They're the only team I think in the NBA that has had multiple games. I think it was 4-6. Where they were ahead by 15 points and end up losing the game. They're like 3-16 in the last 19 games. It's just a bad situation over there right now.
Oh, it's ugly. And I'm not even sure why. Look, I'm not a tanking fan, right? So I'm not saying they should be throwing games. I hate that. Anything to do with tanking. But realistically, they ought to be playing some of these kids like Toppin more because they're 5 games back in the loss column for the 10th spot, which is only getting you in the play-in tournament or whatever you want to call it anyway. And this team's not going anywhere. All you have to do is look at, as you just alluded to, their recent performance. This team is not making the playoffs. There's 20 games left. They're not making the playoffs. They're not going 18-2, or 15-5 and having some kind of miraculous rebound here. And I think you need to play the kids. And Jericho Sims might have been the guy you're thinking of. He's been playing a lot more lately, but he needs to play to guys like Sims and get McBride. McBride's kind of just sitting on a bench playing 1 minute a game. I mean,
I think it was McBride who the other guy was for that game
but he's had him chained to the bench more often than that, and it's time to play.
There's a reason on the bench, guys. They're not that good, and let's not say Thibodeau should play this guy, that guy. Some guys. He knows what their future is in the NBA. There's really very little Thibodeau could do with this roster.
Well, you could find more out about guys in real game situations, though. He has not done that, right? So that's better use of these last 20 games to me than, making a run at the last playoff spot that is unlikely to even happen.
What run, Keith, right? The only good thing that's come out of this year is Barrett's finally coming to his own, right? Barrett looks like a really good NBA player. I don't know why you would get rid of him when you're going to try and build a team. And that's the only chip they got. I mean, what are you going to trade Barrett for one of these other all-stars where Barrett may be next year, may be better than them? I mean, I wouldn't do it. Randall is Randall. You know what he is. So, I mean, I don't know what you could get for Randall anyway. Nothing substantial.
No, Barrett would bring back a better return, but I've been a Barrett guy since the beginning. I think I've been pretty consistent on this that I would not move Barrett in a trade, even before this run. I like Barrett. I think he's really starting to mature, and he's got to be part of this team's future. And I would find a way to move Julius Randle if I got to move somebody. But as you said, Mac, I'm not sure at this point what you get for Randle because of the contract situation and everything else.
Yeah, they paid their players pretty well this year. That's for sure. So that they kind of hem themselves in there also. So every which way but loose, they're kind of hemmed in. So we'll see what happens whether Tibbs makes it to next year or not. I don't know.
Like he should not be the fall guy for this whole thing. I'm not, and that's not to absolve him of blame as we've talked about, but he should not be taking the fall for this. I don't even know what to call this season. I mean, the front office has got to take the majority of the blame. He's got to work with what he's given, but they either need to give him more input, or who knows, maybe if he doesn't get it and they're going to tell him, you're not going to get any input on players, and these are the type of guys they're going to bring in that he can't coach, then he might walk away. Who knows?
Yeah, he might. He just might. Or Carlos might fire him and just go right over.
Carlos would fire him if he was playing for the NBA championship this year.
It's just overstep the next president and say you're fired. The heck with it. So let's take a quick look at March Madness. You got Selection Sunday coming up. There's 8 teams that have the odds of getting to the championship piece. And tell me if you agree with this. We got Gonzaga at number 1, Arizona at number 2, Kentucky, Auburn, Duke, Purdue, Baylor, and Kansas are the 8 teams that they have the best odds at winning that championship. Have any other ones that you would throw in there, or any you disagree with?
Well, no, I mean, those are probably the guys from a betting standpoint that probably ought to be at the top, right? Auburn, I think, is probably the most volatile of all those, the way they're playing right now. And when you get to the tournament, if they get the wrong matchup and a team can control the tempo, they could be in trouble early. A team I like a lot, and they're moving up towards that. They're not in the top 8 or even close to it, but I got them at plus 8,000. So bet 100 to win 8,000. Arkansas. They're playing really good basketball. It's a team that I like a lot. I think this is a year where you will see an outlier get to the Final Four, or at least get to the Elite 8 and a chance to get to the Final Four. Last week, Jack asked me if I had a real dark horse to get to the Final Four. I said Murray State. St. Mary's is another team that's played their way into that conversation. I think it's possible if and St. Mary's could easily do this if they win their conference tournament and beat Gonzaga again. I think they'll be one of the top. They'll get a 4 seed, which is pretty good considering Gonzaga will probably be a 1 or 2. And to me, 1 or 2s don't really matter. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whether you're on the 1 line or the 2 line. But after that, it kind of does matter. So I think it's a wide open tournament, and any of those teams could win that you mentioned, Mac.
Yeah,
and they could all lose.
I heard some good things about North Texas too.
North Texas, yeah, they got a again. Carlos is on Chattanooga, I think.
Chattanooga. I think he's on the Chattanooga Choo Choo, is where Carlos.
Yeah. Now he just catted me with Arkansas. If that was a good thing, I'm not sure what the rest of that was, but if he picked Arkansas, he catted me.
Yes, he did. So Keith, Coach K, his last regular season, tickets are on sale at SnubHub and all these other ones for over $3,000.
SnubHub, that's good.
These ticket agencies. Over 3,000, more than the 1950. More than the Super Bowl 56.
Yeah.
If you want to sit behind Tibbs, he's got me saying Tibbs now, Coach K, and watch him coach his last regular season, you're going to shell over $3,000, Keith.
You know what's funny that you can do on a secondary market? You can do whatever you want. You can scalp tickets. So if I went out in front of the stadium and did that, I'd get arrested. Right. But these secondary outlets for tickets can do whatever they want with them and drive the prices up. And it's gotten crazy. Real fans can't go to. How many real fans were at that Super Bowl paying $20,000 for a seat in the nosebleed section? It's gotten crazy. Yes, it's a big event. It's a huge event. Coach K, we're not going to see guys coach. You got him and Jim Boeheim he'll only have a year or 2 left, probably. Have coached 43 and 46 years, I think, respectively, at one school. You're never going to see this ever again. And I think it's something that people should appreciate. Whether they want to pay $3,000 is a different story. I wouldn't.
That's great.
But it is something that I hope people appreciate. Whether you hate Duke, love Duke, hate Coach K, or love Coach K, you're never going to see the likes of him again.
That's that.
But who cares at the end last game? I was offered to go to the Buccaneer Ram playoff game in Tampa Bay, and as it turns out, there's a good chance that's going to be Tom Brady's last game, and I missed out on that. I declined the invitation. Okay, but let's say I had gone. It would have been nice to say I was at Tom Brady's last game.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have had to pay anything for that ticket. But to spend all the money, you see Coach K coach's last game. It's nice, it's cute, but it's not historical.
It is historical. I wouldn't pay the money.
His last game, you're not going to remember it as anything being so special. I was at Willie Mays Day at Shea Stadium. It's nice to be there, but it's not as historical as him making the catch in the 1954 World Series.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, but I still do think there's some historical significance to these events. I mean, just think about boxing, right? I mean, if you were at Ali's last fight, as ugly as it probably was,
that was against Trevor Burbick, and that was a sad sight. You wouldn't have wanted to be at that.
Or even the Larry Holmes fight, right? They're both bad.
Before that, yeah.
I do think there's some historical significance to some of these events, though.
Oh, some of it, absolutely, but not necessarily the last one. Like Brady losing to the Rams, is that so historical? It was his last game. We're not going to remember him for that game. That's what I'm trying to say.
I would have remembered if I was there. So if I had a chance to go to that game free, I'd have been there.
Free.
I would not pay $3,000. No.
Free is different. That's different.
Free is good. Free is always good.
That's right. So, I mean, I thought it was interesting that, but there are very avid fans, and avid fans will pay whatever, or big businessmen that want to go to and say, I bet I was there. I mean, the Super Bowl to me is I won't say it's overrated, but for the price you pay to go to Super Bowl, it's overrated.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's, when you look at it, it's just a game. It's just a regular game. It's the build up around it that, I mean, to be down there around the Super Bowl, I mean, is worth something. But just to sit there at a football game and watch a football game, that's no different than sitting at any other game. So, but
right.
It is what it's an event. I guess Coach K's last regular season coaching is an event. I guess I would think so. If you're a big Duke fan, you're a big college basketball fan, right? It will be very interesting to see if they have the rabid student section they normally have based on the price of the tickets for this game, because they very famously have Sheseskiville there, where kids camp out all week long or longer to get tickets to go to these games, and it'll be interesting to see how many are at this last game, based on the fact that I don't think they're paying $3,000 to get in. I would imagine. I imagine if the university has any kind of wherewithal, they just give those tickets away to the students for the last.
I know they get them at a nominal fee, and that's why they camp out to get them, because they're.
I would give him away. I give him away for his last regular season game. Just do something right. Universities make enough money. Jesus God.
He's a great storyline, though. That aside, Coach K's last run here through the NCAAs is going to be a very interesting story through the whole thing. And it does have historic proportions because he's been so successful and been there so long. And the fact that it's just never going to happen again, in my mind.
Yeah. Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with you, Keith. But anyway, it's pretty interesting to me that he's getting that amount for a ticket.
Yeah, it is.
Getting that amount. The Pats, of course, they're looking for that wide receiver. They're looking at Kyle Phillips from UCLA, Slade Bolin with Alabama. I would imagine they're going to want to do what the Bengals did. Keith, they're going to want to hook him up with receivers he's familiar with Alabama that he played with. I think that would be the smartest move for them to do, unless they get themselves their hands on one of the top 3 wide receivers that are up there in the draft this year.
Menchie, I think it's Menchie is his name. He's one of the guys that's very prominent, the receiver from Alabama they're talking about. some of the free agents that are out there, they keep getting linked to the Patriots. I just don't see it happening because I don't see them paying the money for a Juju Smith or some of these other guys that are kind of available. I don't know if I'd take on, although he's a great player, Ridley's issues. I don't know if I'd take that on, depending on what I had to give up.
It would scare me. That would scare me. If know, I don't care what the reasons are. If somebody just stops playing for a year because of something.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some off the field issues there, mental health wise, whatever you want to categorize it. And I mean, if you got him for a song, that'd be different, but the Falcons aren't going to just give him away.
No. There's talk that they may trade him for Cooper or something. We'll see.
The Cowboys would be nuts to do that, wouldn't they?
Why?
I mean, Cooper, because you got an established guy for a guy you don't even know if you can get on the field, and he's got a history of having issues. So I don't know that I'd make that trade. Yeah, if I'm the Cowboys, I'm talking about.
Cooper's going to cost them $22 million if he stays there, Keith. So
what's Ridley making, and he may not be on the field.
That's a lot of money for a guy that's really hasn't panned out to be what they thought it was going to be.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's we got to factor that in, I suppose.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Cooper there too. We talked about that earlier. Jared Mayo, they think will be looking for a head coaching job here soon. I mean, I don't remember. I mentioned this to Byron earlier. I mean, you had successful teams, and I don't remember coaches they took all the Rams coaches. 6 assistants are gone, plus the OC.
Yeah.
Buffalo was invaded. I don't remember this, Keith. Do you? I mean, I remember the Washington coaching staff with the Redskins and the 49er coaching staff, the Giants coaching staff, even the Bears to a point. I don't remember them rating their coaching staffs like they do today, or coaches moving to different teams in the same position as much as I see now.
The lateral movement is very interesting. That's definitely different, and it was something that was frowned on. You couldn't necessarily interview for guys for lateral moves. And there's some rules against it, so I don't even know how so much of it happens. I mean, guys moving up and getting better jobs. Yeah. Obviously, that happens all the time. But I have not. You're right. I don't remember seeing the lateral moves of D coordinators to the same position with other teams, and the same with offensive coaches, and even lesser tiered coaches, right? Position coaches. It happens a lot, and maybe they're just bad situations and teams don't want them, or they see a better opportunity to advance with another team. But there are rules the NFL supposedly, and any rules the NFL has, I suppose, are just kind of suggestions more than actual rules, because they can be circumvented when need be. But there are rules to kind of limit that type of thing and not be able to raid a team's staff just to bring him in for a lateral move. But it does seem to happen a lot more now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember. Like I said, 6 assistant coaches from the Rams, and they're not moving up anywhere.
Well, one of them did. One of them did. I don't got the head coach. Yeah.
But even if you look at the Giants with the defensive coordinator from Baltimore moving to be a defensive coordinator for the Giants. Unless they slap another title on them or something. Maybe that's how they get around it, saying assistant head coach.
It's good for the coordinators because they make more money. They could get a better contract. They could get a multi-year deal as a coordinator. So it's really good for them.
Yeah. It also may say something for the teams they're losing and the organizations that they don't want to stay there, and they think it's a better opportunity somewhere else too. I don't know.
Yeah, me either. It's kind of weird. So. Keith, anything else you want to throw in there before we let you go? I mean, like I said, of course, New England's looking to maybe pair up Mac Jones with some with Alabama receivers, which I think would be a good idea. I'm still not convinced about Mac Jones. I'm sorry, Keith. We'll see what happens.
Well, that's okay. You can have that opinion. That's great. I mean, Josh McDaniel had some great things to say about him the other day. Obviously, he never saw a quarterback of his age with his maturity level and things like that. And I still think Mac Jones, he needs help. Can't do it by himself. He's not going to carry a team, but no quarterback's going to carry a team on their back anymore.
You know what I'm waiting for, Keith? I'm waiting for a coach to leave a team and say that quarterback absolutely. I don't even know how he got his job.
Well, Mike Zimmer kind of said that with Kirk Cousins in a diplomatic way.
Yeah, Zimmer's a son of a gun.
Well, he got fired too, so that might be different. So
yes, Zimmer's a son of a gun, boy. Kirk Cousins doesn't take chances. They're trying to get rid of Kirk Cousins. Hey, Minnesota, stick that where it don't shine, buddy. How about that?
I tell you, if there was a guy that was going to trash a guy, though, Josh McDaniel would be a high candidate to do it, I think, on the way out the door. Because he's a bit of a loose cannon.
Is he? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know about that.
It's there's all kinds of talk, and we're going to be talking about all these potential draft destinations for players, and there's still another 6 weeks before the draft. I'm not even sure exactly, something like that, right? So a lot of it's conjecture. It'll start to come into focus more 2 weeks or so before the draft. So we got a lot of time to talk about that. Right now, my focus is on March Madness because it begins now with the conference tournaments are underway as we speak, and the big conferences will get playing early next week, and it's going to be a very exciting 3 or 4 weeks coming up. I love this time of year.
I agree. I love March Madness. A lot of people say, well, it's too many teams. Well, if you think about all the college basketball programs in the country, literally thousands, it's not that big of a tournament, really.
I love these conference tournaments as much as I love the NCAA tournament itself. It's a lot of fun these couple weeks.
Yeah, I agree, Keith. Well, Keith, you have a great Friday. We'll check you out this Sunday if you got a chance. We'll bring you in, talk a little bit about this week in sports. Folks, check out Keith Engle, TGI Sports Talk. Great show, great guests. He even has a guy named Carlos on there once in a while. Does all right.
We call him the Mad New Yorker, which fits very well, by the way.
Yes. Are you serious? So,
not mad angry either, by the way.
Okay, so Keith, you have a great one, and we'll see you Sunday, my friend.
All right, guys, have a great weekend.
Take it easy. So, Keith Engle, TGI Sports, glad to have him on. Quick break, and we'll be back on the other side with one of my favorite guests, the Philly sports guy himself, Jamie Paggs. So, folks, stick around. And I love trying to find things, and I know they're right there, Jack. I know I'm not losing my mind. So we'll be right back, folks, after these messages.
Here comes the king, here comes the big number one. Budweiser, here the king is second to none. Just say Budweiser, you've said it all. Here comes the king of beer, so lift your glasses, here we go. Budweiser beer's the one that's leading the rest. When you say Bud, and Beachwood aging makes this beer at its best. When you say Bud, what tastes will tell you so loud and clear. There's only one Budweiser beer. When you say Bud, you've said it all.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211-INFO-LINE. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
Shaper is the one bit to have when you're having more than one. Shaper pleasure doesn't fade even when your thirst is done. The most rewarding flavor in this man's world for people who are having fun. Shaper is the one bit to have when you're having more than one.
Ever wonder what makes Schaefer the one beer to have when you're having more than one? One reason is more than one fermentation. Most brewers just ferment their beer once, but Schaefer is fermented twice. Once to make it beer, and twice to make it Schaefer. The one beer with flavor so fine, it keeps shining through, glass after frosty glass. More than one fermentation is one reason, but of course there's more than one reason behind the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready. I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. And waiting backstage right now is one of the biggest social media giants we have on our network anyway, a guy that knows everything about Philly sports and all the sports, too, as you've witnessed that when he's been a co-host on the show every now and then. And that's the Philly sports guy. Jack, let's bring him up and see what's going on.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
What's up, Pags? How you doing?
Living a dream.
You're living the dream, huh? I love it. Green screen there and everything. You know, I got a green screen, but Jack does not. So if I was to get a green screen and hide my beautiful memorabilia behind me, Jack would still be sitting there in front of a bunch of seagulls in Florida right now. So
I'll be honest with you. I don't have a green screen. This is just doing it from behind me. I bet you if I go back far enough, you'll see the stuff I have on my wall.
Yes, yes. Well, there's some kind of projection you have on your wall there, Pat.
No. Actually, this is the good stuff about using this app. You could just have it back there. So he could Jack. All you have to do is give Jack a picture, and he could put that behind him, and he wouldn't even know.
I'm looking at they're doing this out here. The lawnmowers are going at a top loud speed. So I'm glad I could put the mute button on. I'm glad Friday is guest day. You know, talking the amount of noise in the background. If you want to hear it soon, they come around. It's like they come around the lake, and then the noise goes. So
it's such a hard life. Such a hard life when you're living out on a golf course.
Yeah. Yes. And you know, Pat, give him a projection. I'm lucky to get him in here every morning.
I understand.
So, Pags, let's talk a little bit about the Eagles' unique way of interviewing their prospects. Last year, they challenged into a competitive game of rock, paper, scissors, which they wanted to measure the competitive last year. This year, they're shooting basketballs into mini hoops. And I guess one of them got 2 in a row, so the interview continued. So that's pretty unique way to interview prospects, Pat.
Yeah, I feel like, had the Sixers done that with Ben Simmons, they may not have chosen him in the first, with the first pick in the draft. So, I mean, I like the uniqueness of it. You know, it's like these guys are going down there to the combine and they are nervous. They are really focused on doing well as best as they can. And you go into these interviews and most of the time you get the same questions over and over and over again. And here it is that the Eagles come out of nowhere and they're like, you know what? We want you to throw this basketball into this mini hoop, and we want to see how you do. And it throws you all off because now all of a sudden you're like, okay, and then you start to be fun with it. It's. I used to, when I owned my own business, I would say that I would never get into a business deal with somebody without going to have a beer with them. And the reason why is because it would break down the wall. The moment you had that beer, you'd be like, okay, now I can I can loosen up a little bit. And I feel like that they can't do that there, obviously. You're not going to have a beer with these guys. But this is the way to loosen them up a little bit, to get to a little bit more of the meat of the matter of who they are in comparison to the scripts that they're reading. If that makes any sense.
Sure, it makes sense to me. I mean, I would imagine everybody has their different techniques, and the rock, paper, scissors got you Devontae Smith, so maybe it works out very well. You never know. So I guess he was pretty good at that. As they were being competitive. I don't know what he picked, but
he did win the best of 3, 2 straight.
Right. See, there you go. So I mean, that was just it's very amusing, but it's I can understand to a point. I want to play some video, and this is of your latest trade, the highlights of James Harden. Now, I want to do this because people know James Harden as a scoring champion, right? This guy can shoot. Through a head of a needle. He is that good. But I don't think people realize how great James Harden is in most facets of basketball. He sees the court unbelievably. He knows what he's doing. He knows when to take it to the hoop and when to shoot. And these are things that only superstars know. And even at his age, still, Pax, even at his age as he's creeping up there, maybe he's got 2 or 3 really good years left in it. And, a lot of people talk about the trade that the people, the players that the Nets got back. So I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to bring up James Harden. It's a quick 3-minute thing. And just to remind people how good this guy really is. And this, of course, is against the Nets, but he can really do this against really any team if he wants. And this is really what let me make sure I'm up at the top. Let's make sure. Should be sharing it right about now. Let's bring it up and see what James Harden really can do for a few minutes.
Scoring title was Allen Iverson, the last center in the NBA to win a scoring title.
You can talk if you want while it's going, Pat.
Okay. Well, I tell you, the good thing about him is that he has.
Harris getting a good look, and he buries a 3.
I don't know what happened with me here.
His first miss from 3. Here's Harden driving.
We can't see you anymore.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. Hold on, I'm going to try to stop my camera.
His first home points.
Well, right there was him taking it to the basket.
There's Harden again.
There was one play that he did where it looked like he got fouled and literally pushed the players away and got up and made the basket. No foul was called.
Right.
And it was really amazing on how that came about and how that just shows the strength of him.
Yep, it's a miscommunication there for the Sixers. Easy bucket. Harden's floor takes a couple of bounces and falls. His third bucket, 8 points.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna come right back.
So
all right.
As you look at the moves that are made, the way this team is constructed now is Milton gets the
Jack, you're having no problem seeing this, right?
Durant back tomorrow.
No, not at all. I was kind of thinking, guys, if the Sixers win the championship this season with this deal, what does that say for the Nets that they couldn't get it done with Harden, with having Durant and Kyrie Irving on the team? That'll say an awful lot.
Sixers have won 3 in a row, 5 of their last 6. Harden for 3. James Harden with his second triple. 17 first half points.
Let me see if I
They're
can.
allowing him space to get to his spots in rhythm. Harden penetrates, That's against Julius Randle. Harden showing that strength, finishing.
Let me see
off
if
the
I
window.
can
Have been
bring.
overlooked because of the Knicks' struggle this season, but also because of the
Harden's going to be much happier with the Sixers than he was with the Nets.
There's no doubt.
Kyrie Irving, when he played, inhibited Harden to a degree. He's going to have no one on the Sixers to inhibit him. He'll be able to do his own thing.
It's self-belief and work.
And I can't bring Pags up because I'm sharing this right now. But I know he's down there looking at it.
One of the reasons they've been able to build that team and have success.
No question. Bain, a candidate for most
And as you see, he just flips it
as
to the outside guy, wide open. It just he makes it look so easy, Jack. And Pags, when we bring it up, we'll talk about it too.
And a frustrating season for all involved with the Knicks.
And as you see, there he is taking it to the hoop again, going left.
But I like that.
I mean, it seems like Maxi's benefited so far with Harden's arrival.
I agree.
That last play, he's getting shots at the screener. There he is, making a great read.
So this is just his third game after being traded February 10th. Maxey drives and gets it in the lane. To play the Suns on Friday.
And you see, they get it to Harden,
25
and right there, he's got him wide open down the court. Bang! It's so smooth.
For Philadelphia.
So I mean, if you look at it, and we'll get Pags back up in here after this. You know, after I think I got stopped sharing this thing. Let's see if I can get out of this here. Yeah, I mean, and we'll bring Pags back up. I mean, you know, you look at it, Pags, and he's just so smooth, and people don't realize how well he sees the court, how he can take it to the hoop, how it opens up the court for everybody else, not just Embiid. I mean, you're talking about for everybody. And he gets the ball, he sees it, it's gone to the next guy, it's in the hoop. And this to me is what makes this trade so good for the 76ers. It makes the whole team better. And that's what the benefit of having a James Harden is.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it I mean, he had 26, 9, and 9 in that game. He had the triple-double in the first game. You know, it's literally he's accounted, just those two games alone, he accounted for 105 points between the, you know, he scored 53 points, I think it was, and 26 assists. Along with the fact that he had 19 rebounds.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you could tell he's a little rejuvenated. I think he's finally happy playing ball for a little while. You know what I mean? At least the first 3 games shows that. And that is really exciting for Philadelphia fans in general. I mean, ticket prices in Philly skyrocketed. Literally skyrocketed once he got here. Yeah, and of course, we, you know, you hear the news about it for the Nets where that Ben Simmons isn't ready to play yet, and he's week to week and blah, blah, blah. And Drummond didn't play this last game. You know, so it's, you know, what is happening over on that side? You know, it's like where the national media initially was killing Philadelphia for this. It looks like the national media, as most of the time when it comes to Philadelphia, is wrong.
And those highlights were brought to you by Z Highlights.
Oh, come on, Pax. On 3 games, you can't come to that evaluation. If the Sixers win the championship, it's a good deal for them. If they don't, you can't say it's a good deal for them. It's 3 games, and one of them's against the Knicks. Come on, give me a break. You can't evaluate it this early in the process.
Actually, you can do an initial evaluation, and I am. And ultimately, if they get to the conference finals, because you think about, I mean, the Bucks also had a really big win the other day. Same day that the Sixers beat the Knicks, the Bucks beat the Heat. You know, and that was a really big win for them. As now the switch gets turned on. It's always after the All-Star break that the switch gets turned on for these basketball teams. So I think that you're going to see, I mean, the Sixers have been stuck out of the first and second round and have not been able to progress. Does that mean that they're going to get past the Bucks? I do not know that answer. I'm not even just saying that they are guaranteed to get to the finals now, but they need to get to the conference finals, and I expect that they're going to. And I expect that if they go against the Bucks, it's got to go to 6 or 7 games. And if it goes to 7 games against the Bucks, automatically it is a better trade for us. We don't even have to go to the finals. We don't need to win the championship this year, because I still think Tobias Harris is having a hard time figuring out where he fits in this offense. Maxey is absolutely, and so is Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is getting looks, like he's getting looks underneath the basket all the time now because he's the forgotten one. So he goes right underneath the basket. Harden throws it to him, and it's an easy 2 points. And it's been happening more and more frequently.
You know, I think it, Pags and Jack, I think the Nets got players that they're going to have to find chemistry again with, right? I mean, you know, Drummond's a different story. But you're talking Curry, you're talking Simmons, who they said isn't going to play for weeks now. But you really don't have to establish chemistry with an all-star, a Hall of Famer, because he knows the game. He already knows the game. He knows how to utilize all these players where Simmons don't. And you got a good rebounder. I mean, the Nets got a good rebounder, but that's okay. But he's no Harden. Simmons is no Harden. Simmons has got to learn basketball to me still, because he still don't get it yet. He's got some good things he's really great at, but he's not going to be playing for weeks. So that means the Nets aren't going to have him till maybe not even the playoffs if they get there. So guaranteed Philadelphia got the better of the trade for right now anyway. And if you got a Hall of Famer there, you don't got to teach him the game. He makes your team better. That's what Harden has done. And I know people think about him, step back, 3-point shooter. He's become an assist guy with the Nets, as we found out. We didn't even know that about him. And now he goes to Philadelphia, and now you can see he can bring it to the hoop. He finds people on the floor very quickly. He just knows basketball, and he's still deadly from the outside. So,
the one thing that I saw is absolutely his strength. I didn't realize how strong he was, and like literally how when he drives to the basket, like said that one play was really a definition where he went up against 2 Knicks defenders and literally was like 1, 2, and then still put the ball up into the hoop. And it looked like there should have been a foul called, but no foul was called. And it was like, wow. It's like you think of anybody else who's doing that, they're letting the ball flop out of their hands because it's an automatic foul, where he continued to go through the hoop and scored the basket, and no foul was called, you know, and that's just finishing a play. Yeah. And I feel like Harden is what the fans of Philadelphia want out of a player, at least right now. You know, obviously he came in here with a great attitude. He started to coach these guys up immediately. These guys took to that like a sponge. You know, they have been listening to him. They have been doing everything that they can to just accept everything that he's teaching them. And first off, Maxey, it's amazing how big of a difference just in those 7 games that since he's been here. You know, and he had always only played 3, but he's been here for 7 games now. How quickly there's been a developmental change, and how quickly he's been able to do that. I mean, against the Bucks, you could tell Harden was coaching up Maxey, and Maxey was just accepting it. And next thing you know, I mean, he was doing things that was Harden-esque on the field or on the court against the Bucks to help the Sixers break the snide against the Bucks, because the Bucks have been beating us left and right, and here it was, we finally got that monkey off our back and we beat them in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Pags. It's going to be interesting, Jack. It's going to be interesting to see how far they go this year with the first. You know, I mean, Harden's coming after the All-Star break. I ain't saying they're going to win a championship, but man, they're a contender.
Guys, it's true. There's a Joel Embiid fact that if by next year, towards the end of next year, some discontent starts creeping up with Joel Embiid and Harden, then the deal hasn't been a success. Listen, it's a bottom line deal. Either if the Sixers win an NBA championship, it's a success. Going to the Eastern Conference Finals is nonsense. That's not enough of a success. Even going to the finals, it's winning the NBA championship. They do that, the Harden deal's a success. Same way with the Nets. They could get a lot of years out of Simmons. So that remains to be seen. It might pay off for them 4 or 5 years down the line getting Simmons. With Harden, you're going to know in the next couple of years. That's like a 2-year window. If they don't win the NBA title in the next 2 years, then something's got to be done in Philadelphia.
Yeah, we'll see.
Of course, there's got to be something done in Philadelphia if they don't win it. But this is the first big step that they have made over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we just know. Listen, Embiid and Simmons hasn't worked. Period. It's since they matched up, it has not worked for one reason or another. It hasn't worked, and it showed big time last year. So that experiment did not work. Period. This one might. So we'll see. I mean, it's pretty interesting to me. A little bit about stuff you're doing, Pags. I don't want to talk about the Flyers. I mean, it is what it is. I know we're supposed to maybe be having an arm wrestling championship coming. You were talking something about the USFL or the XFL. I'm not sure. I remember which one. And of course, soccer's going on. Let us know what's going on with you with that stuff right now.
So let me make sure I have the date correct. I want to say it's March. Is it 19th? March 19th. We are having, it's actually happening right here in Philadelphia. We're having an arm wrestling. It's an arm wrestling competition that's going to feature a number of super matches. And some of the super matches, some of the people that are coming from these super matches are coming from across the country and even around the world. That they're expecting somewhere between anywhere between 150 and 200 participants. All converging into Delaware County, Pennsylvania, literally right up the street from my house. It's just so I happen to be lucky about all this. It's being held by 98% arm wrestling team, and there are a number of fantastic arm wrestlers. They'll have divisions, ladies divisions, seniors divisions. They have all different weight classes. It's going to be a fun event to come out to. It's happening at the Ridley House in Ridley, Pennsylvania, and it's going to be a fun day for all who want to come. It's something that if you wanted to bring the kids out, there are going to be tables available so that the kids can actually play on the tables and learn how to arm wrestle each other from real professional arm wrestlers. There are some top world-class talent that's going to be here. There's always a number of world champions that show up, and it's going to be an amazing event that's happening. Beyond that, of course, soccer got started. The Union tied 1-1 in their opening game this season. Obviously, it wasn't exactly how they wanted to. They have a little bit of a different look to this team this year because they got rid of one of their best goal scorers. He wound up going to Chicago, and they brought in somebody from Holland who is also known and taking his spot. And you could tell just from the original play that he was doing, they got a couple of good looks. They didn't capitalize on them, but there was like 3 or 4 times where they had a chance to score a goal and they just didn't. The timing wasn't 100%. So it's going to be interesting. I expect the Union to actually go for a title run this year. They've been flirting with it for the last couple of years. So I think this is their year that they really go all in for that.
Okay.
Other than that, I mean, of course, the Flyers, are still going on, and even though that's not been a very happy season for them, I'm still doing my thing and rooting for them. And I made even a video last night saying that the measure of a fan, it's easy to be a fan when you're winning, but the true measure of a fan is what happens when they stink out loud. And unfortunately, the Flyers do stink out loud right now.
They sure do.
You know what your problem is, Pags? You should turn on your own team and start harassing them like the Flyer players. Maybe that would help their performance. Instead of going after the opposition, go after your own team.
You know what? There are times where I think about that. The truth of the matter is that the rest of the Philadelphia faithful do that for me. There's no need for me to do that. I do by positivity. You know, there's no need for me to hate on my team. If my team doesn't do it, which the Flyers are definitely not doing it this year, it won't matter whether I cheer or boo because I'm not on the field.
Yep.
So I do whatever I can to try to disrupt the other team.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do.
Makes sense to me, Pags. Yeah, you are a true fan, if nothing else. That's for sure. So, folks, we're going to let the Philly guy go. We're going to have something for you for that arm wrestling competition. Try to get it live on Roku for you so you guys can take a look at that. Pags is working on that for us. I know he's got the soccer thing he's going with, and he's all over the place following all the Philly teams, busy as heck.
And don't forget the NFL draft.
Yes, the NFL draft is on the 28th. We still got to
full
wait.
coverage from the NFL draft, including a couple of different events that may be happening. I'm working on right now that are a little different from normal NFL draft stuff because we are going to be in Vegas. I'm working on something very specific. I want to just throw the feelers out there right now to let everybody know it's going to be interesting to watch, and hopefully we'll be able to do that live on Roku as well.
Yes, and it has nothing to do with rock, paper, scissors. So, folks,
nothing at all.
Get excited, please. All right, Pags. Love having you on every week. Coming on Sunday with us?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. We'll see you on Sunday, folks. The Philly sports guy, J Pags, making his appearances he does on every Friday. Thanks for coming in, Jim.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
See you, Pags.
There you go, folks. Pags himself. Always love having him on. So, folks, we're about out of time. Getting ready to sign off and have that Friday night for you. Tomorrow, we got the debate show with some really interesting topics with Dr. Paul Semendinger, who comes in almost 99% of the time as we debate some of the biggest topics in sports. Sunday, we have This Week in Sports with Jim Jeffcoat. And as you just saw, Pags and Keith will be in with Robert Butler as they add their 2 cents into what happened this week in sports. Thanks for joining us today. And I hope you have a good Friday night, folks. Have a great one.